There's a railway now that's been completed. It goes all the way across Asia and Europe, and it goes right through Netherlands to Rotterdam Harbor. Rotterdam Harbor is the biggest harbor in Europe. And
Man. Okay.
Yeah, and so the railway goes. So you're already filling in the blanks.
Yep.
And so it's the biggest harbor in Europe.
Major trade routes.
Yep.
They are infiltrating all the major trade routes throughout the world.
And the Panamanians were shocked that they're opening a highway to Colombia, right? But we were, when I first was telling Panamanian people that last year, I went, I was down there at the Darien Gap at the edge, looking at the bridge. I go down there all the time because I sensed that they were going to open it up. But there was nothing in the Panamanian news that I was able to find, or anybody was able to find. But I kept expecting they were going to open something up. So almost every time I would go to the Darien Gap, I would go to the end of the highway and look for just mud tracks or anything. And sure enough, I went down there and suddenly there's a bunch of mud. And so I followed this little thing, and I'm like, hey, here it is. They're building a bridge. Whipped out the droned it, and said, this is it. And so I went back up to Panama City and was talking to some people in the government and whatnot. And I was like, look, who's building that bridge? Who's funding it? Nobody seems to know. They're like, there's no bridge being built there. I said, look at the mud on my boots. I was just there like 8 hours ago.
Do you have video of this?
Oh, yeah, I've got tons of video.
Can we put it up here
Absolutely.
now? All right.
Absolutely. I've got drone footage that we just made 10 days ago. I've got drone footage from last year and numerous
So what is
trips.
the significance of opening that road on that? Sounds like it's a 60-mile gap.
Yep. Oh, then you'll have an open path to South America, which means, open shot. For Panama is going to get lost. When I say lost, I mean taken. Panama is basically a country with a pork chop around its neck. And it doesn't have, it's got a very professional Senafront. Senafront is sort of their army, sort of their border patrol, sort of police. We don't have the equivalent. It's kind of all three. They're trained constantly by Navy SEALs, U.S. and also Special Forces. We just saw some of those down there again, and they've been training them for years. So they're very professional. When you go down there, I think you're going to be actually impressed with Senafront, but they're not strong enough to defend Panama, not even close, right? And they're very professional. They've got limited weapons. They don't have any rockets. They've got no anti-aircraft. They've got no anti-ship missiles. They just don't have the numbers. They're not going to be able to defend Panama. And so Panama, again, that incredibly important piece of real estate, which can be and will be open to South America by land. And by the way, there's a book written by, it was actually clearly sponsored by Chinese, and it was co-authored by a Panamanian economist. And it talks about, it's a softball book on, opening up the Darien and these sorts of things. And you can see the bioceanic corridor map and all these different maps. And these are terms people probably aren't familiar with. But the bottom line is the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, is something that'll go right through Panama. And this is vital. Actually, it ends up going right through. People were just asking me yesterday, why is Biden going to Brownsville, Texas? Because it's on the I-69 corridor. That corridor is part of the corridor that also will go through the Darien Gap, actually the bioceanic corridor, and all these different things. It's all about energy. It's all about routes, Old Spice routes, Old Silk Road, all these things. Nothing has changed really. The important routes are the same. Actually, that's why I often will leave Panama and go to Netherlands, because Netherlands is another key piece of vital piece of terrain, right? You see the railway that's been built from Shanghai and other feeders in China. I've been to that end of it in Shanghai. I spent a lot of time. I spent about a year in and around China. But there's a railway now that's been completed. It goes all the way across Asia and Europe, and it goes right through Netherlands to Rotterdam Harbor. Rotterdam Harbor is the biggest harbor in Europe. And
Man. Okay.
Yeah, and so the railway goes. So you're already filling in the blanks.
Yep.
And so it's the biggest harbor in Europe.
Major trade routes.
Yep.
They are infiltrating all the major trade routes throughout the world.
So when you see where I'm at, it's trade routes. That's where they're using this weaponized migration. They're focusing them on key places of the trade route. Brownsville. Why did Biden go there? Well, why does Governor Abbott constantly go to McAllen? It's along the I-69 corridor, which is part of these trade routes. And it goes all the way up to Detroit, where World Economic Forum also has a headquarters, right? Not a coincidence. And those feeders come up from New Orleans. So when you look at that map, you can see you can already see a lot of the place. So let's get back to Netherlands. Just south of Rotterdam Harbor is Antwerp Harbor in Belgium, the second largest harbor in Europe. You control those two bad boys, and you've got, and so now they're trying to working on something called Tri-State City in Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium. They call it Tri-State because it's the three states of Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium. Most of Netherlands, part of Germany, and part of Belgium will be this giant smart city that the World Economic Forum and CCP have envisioned. Now, every time I say this on a major show like yours, you'll see the WEF guys come out and say, that's conspiracy theory. And I'll say, well, here it is on your website, right? You know how this goes.
Yeah.
And so they want to build this giant, and they're working on it, tri-state city, smart city. And so they're really hitting Netherlands and whatnot with these weaponized migration, right? The weaponized migration is one of the tools that they're bringing to bear.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.